Nobody sat down and invented music. It just happened. It leaked out of us. Long before the first song, before the first drum, before the first word for song even existed, humans were already doing it. They were humming. They were tapping. They were swaying. They were making noise on purpose. And that noise slowly became the most universal human language on Earth. Here's the strange part. No culture has ever been found without music. Not one. Every group of humans ever discovered on every continent in every climate was already making it when we showed up. Which raises a very weird question. If nobody taught us, why do we all do it? The honest answer is that music wasn't really invented. It was an accident. A leftover. A side effect of being the kind of animal we became. To see how, you have to go back hundreds of thousands of years, long before anything you'd recognize as a song existed. Imagine you're an early human. You live in a small group. You don't have words yet, or at least not many. You communicate the way most social animals do, with sounds, faces, and gestures. A sharp cry means danger. A low rumble means calm. A high pitch means a baby needs you, right now, immediately. These weren't songs. They were survival. But here's the thing about a brain that's wired to read sound for meaning. It starts reading meaning into everything. The wind through a cave entrance. The rhythm of footsteps on dry leaves. The pulse of a heartbeat pressed against another person's chest. For an animal that lives by listening, the world is already half a song. Then something stranger happened. Humans became the only species on Earth that walks fully upright on two legs, all day, every day. That seems unrelated. It isn't. Walking on two legs means your hands are free. Free hands mean you can carry things, slap things, and strike things. And striking things makes rhythm. A stone against a stone. A stick against a log. A palm against a thigh. Suddenly, an ordinary motion of the body could produce a repeating pattern of sound. And human brains are obsessed with repeating patterns. This is the first real ingredient. Rhythm wasn't invented. It fell out of having a body that moved in regular, predictable beats. Your heart beats in rhythm. Your lungs breathe in rhythm. Your feet walk in rhythm. You are, biologically, a rhythm machine wrapped in skin. Now add the second ingredient. The human voice changed. At some point in our evolution, our throats reshaped. The larynx dropped lower than in any of our ape relatives. That tiny anatomical shift was a disaster in one way. It made us the only primates who routinely choke on our own food. But it gave us something no other animal has. Astonishing vocal range. We could hum, growl, whisper, shout, glide between pitches, hold a single note, and bend it. Most animals can make maybe a dozen distinct sounds. A trained human voice can produce thousands. We didn't evolve that throat to sing. We evolved it to speak. But once you have an instrument that flexible, singing is almost unavoidable. Think about that for a second. The same anatomical accident that lets you order coffee is the reason your ancestors could carry a tune. Now add the third ingredient, and this is the strangest one. Human babies. Human babies are unbelievably useless. A baby deer can stand within minutes of being born. A human baby cannot lift its own head for months. This is because of something anthropologists call the obstetric dilemma. Our hips narrowed for upright walking, but our brains kept growing, so babies have to be born absurdly early and absurdly helpless. Which means a human mother is holding a tiny, fragile, screaming creature for years. And that creature has to be soothed. Constantly. So mothers, all over the world and every culture ever studied, do the same thing. They rock. They hum. They make soft, repetitive, melodic sounds directly into a small ear. Researchers have a name for this, infant-directed speech, or motherese. It exists in every language ever recorded. It's higher in pitch than normal speech. It's slower. It's melodic. It has rhythm. It is, basically, a lullaby with the lyrics not quite finished. Babies who were soothed survived. Babies who were soothed slept. Mothers who could soothe could rest, hunt, gather, and keep watch. In other words, the humans who hummed had a survival advantage. The humming wasn't decoration. It was childcare. And childcare, repeated for 200,000 years, becomes a psalm. Now picture the camp. It's evening. The fire is burning low. A mother is rocking a baby and humming a sliding, drifting little tune. A few feet away, a man is napping flint, and his strikes fall into a steady tick, tick, tick. Someone else is grinding seeds with a stone, and that grind has its own beat. Someone's foot taps along without thinking. A second voice joins the humming, a little lower, harmonizing by accident. Nobody has decided to make music. Music is just what happens when this many rhythmic, vocal, social animals share one fire. And then, somewhere, someone notices. Someone realizes that the sound is doing something to the group. People feel closer when they hum together. People work in time when they tap together. Babies sleep when they're rocked in rhythm. Grief feels lighter when it's wailed out loud, with others wailing too. The moment a human noticed that, really noticed it, music stopped being an accident. It became a tool. Here's the important part. We have actual evidence of this. In a cave in modern-day Germany, archaeologists found a flute. It was carved from the wing bone of a vulture. It is at least 40,000 years old. It has finger holes. It can still be played, and when modern musicians play replicas, real notes come out. 40,000 years ago, deep in the Ice Age, while mammoths walked outside the cave, a human sat in the dark and made a musical instrument on purpose. That is not a casual project. That is someone who already understood music well enough to want to engineer a better way to make it. Which means the singing, the humming, the clapping, the drumming, all of that was already old by the time the flute was carved. Music wasn't new in the Ice Age. Music was ancient in the Ice Age. Quick pause. I'm curious about something, and I want you to actually answer this in the comments. What's the oldest piece of music you personally know? Not the oldest song you like, but the oldest one you can hum from memory. A lullaby from your grandmother, a folk song, a hymn, a chant, anything. I want to see how far back the chain in this comment section reaches. Drop it below. Now back to the story, because here's where it gets a little eerie. Music doesn't just soothe babies. It synchronizes adults. When humans sing together, their breathing patterns line up. When humans drum together, their heart rates begin to match. When humans dance together, their movements fall into shared rhythm without anyone consciously trying. For a small, vulnerable group of primates trying to survive a hostile world, that is enormous. A group that moves as one, fights as one. A group that sings as one, mourns as one. A group that drums as one, walks longer, hunts longer, and works longer without falling apart. Music, in other words, was social glue. It turned a collection of individuals into something that behaved like a single organism. And our brains rewarded us for it. Every time you feel a chill from a song, every time a chorus hits and your chest tightens, every time a beat makes your foot move before you've decided to move it, that is an ancient reward system firing. Your brain is paying you in pleasure for doing the thing that kept your ancestors alive. This sounds fake, but it's real. Studies have shown that listening to music releases the same chemicals involved in eating, bonding, and falling in love. Music hijacks the reward circuits built for survival. That's why you cry at songs about people you've never met. That's why a stranger's voice on a recording can make you feel less alone at 3 a.m. That's why an entire stadium of people can scream the same lyrics back at a band and feel, for a few minutes, like one creature. You are not weird for that. You are doing exactly what your species was shaped to do. And here's the truly humbling part. We did this before we had cities. We did this before we had farming. We did this before we had writing, before we had metal, before we had wheels. There was no recorded music for 99% of human history. If you wanted to hear a song, someone you knew had to sing it to you. Every song was live. Every performance was one of a kind. Every melody existed only in the air it filled, and the memory of the people who heard it. For most of our story, music was something you made, together in a small circle of firelight, and then it was gone. We are the first humans in history who can carry 100,000 songs in a pocket-sized rectangle. We are also the first humans in history who routinely listen alone. Think about that. For 200,000 years, music was a group activity around a fire. For about 100 years, it has been a solitary activity inside a pair of headphones. Your ancestors would find that almost incomprehensible. To them, a song without other people would barely qualify as a song. And yet, even alone with a thin wire in your ear, you still feel it. You still tap your foot. You still mouth the words. You still get the chills at the chorus. Because the machinery is still in there. The upright body that strikes rhythm. The dropped larynx that bends pitch. The mother's hum that became a melody. The cave bone that became a flute. The fire circle bond that became every concert, every choir, every lullaby ever sung. Nobody invented music. Music is just what an animal like us sounds like when it's alive. Tonight, somewhere, you'll put on a song. Maybe in the car. Maybe in the shower. Maybe in bed, in the dark with your eyes closed. And in that quiet little moment, you'll be doing something a human did 40,000 years ago in a freezing cave with a vulture bone flute, and 200,000 years before that, with nothing but a voice and a fire. You're not just listening. You're continuing. If this changed the way you hear your own playlist, hit the like button. It genuinely helps this channel grow. Subscribe to Hominin so you don't miss the next one, because next time we're going somewhere even stranger inside the ancient human story. And tell me in the comments what song makes you feel something you can't explain. I'll be reading them. See you in the next one.